up until sentience.
I know, but Haru, do you have a proposition?
Abortion is moral, all 9 months.
That's it. That's the proposition. Okay. Haru's
Do
affirmative.
you agree with that premise, Hatim? Before we go on.
Obviously, I don't agree with it.
Okay,
I'm
so we
debating against
disagree.
it. I'm debating against it.
So that, yeah, no, I'm saying he agrees. He agrees with the debate. Let's go. All right, cool.
All right,
Let's
go
go.
ahead.
All right.
Wait, let me turn on my light a little bit. Let me take off these glasses. They're
This is
making
gonna
me
be
dizzy.
interesting. All right, go ahead.
Uh, so
You start
the
whenever you say your first word.
so the definition, like preface that I'm using for the terminology consent, would be the informed notion of making a decision that can be revoked at any point in time, because consent is all going. With the definition, like preface of abortion, like that we are using, it would just be the removal of a fetus that does not include a birth. So I personally believe that individuals can consent to another organism. To revoke the materials of nutrition getting taken away from their body from another organism at any time. And I personally believe individuals can consent to get an abortion at any time because that organism is actively taking resources. The way that I would grant moral permissibility would be you have to have two of these criteria to be morally like thought of in my moral perspective: past sentience, present sentience, and future sentience, or the potentiality for future sentience. I yield the rest of my opening statement.
All right, so the argument is going to be easy. Where they said all 9 months, right? And all 9 months means all 9 months without exception. So if there's a way to remove the fetus outside of the womb and still for that fetus to be alive, that's probably going to be a preferable one. Why? Because if they care about consent, then we maximize that value in my world way better than their world. Why? Because then we maximize the consent of the mother who doesn't have their body aggressed upon anymore by the fetus, and we maximize the consent of the fetus who doesn't get unalived and still gets to live a potentially fulfillful life as they continue to grow in an incubator potentially. And so in my world where things such as um, uh, uh, um, where things such as the removal of the fetus via C-section or some type of removal that still allows the fetus to live, even in the far future, where we have advanced technology, where it's easy, potentially easy and painless, right? In my world, I'm allowed to say, yes, we can have that. Where Haru is saying, even in the far future, where technology advanced, easy and painless, potentially free, maybe, we would still abort the baby, unalive the baby, and minimize consent, which is the value they agree with. So, in every possible sense of the imagination, my world is preferred since Haru has basically signed their deathbed on the note of what's that word I'm looking for? On the note of the value of um, consent. So because my world maximizes consent, it's the easiest one in debate in the world.
Yeah, do you believe babies have consent?
Yeah, but do I believe babies have consent? I do believe you can
Yeah.
violate the consent of a baby. Yeah.
No, do you believe the organism of a baby has consent? Because what you were doing in this conversation was like it
Yeah,
pleading
I
to
do. I
emotional
do.
logical fallacy because you're referring to the fetus as a
Yeah,
baby.
babies have consent. Yes, babies have consent. Yes.
Yeah, so would you say 3-year-olds have consent?
Yes.
Would you
Everybody has
say
consent.
5-year-olds have consent? So you would
Everybody has
say,
consent.
so
Everybody who's a
okay.
person, everybody with sentience has consent.
So are you saying an individual that can't make an informed notion has consent? So are you saying an individual like of like this moral like thing could consent to intercourse? Because you said like consent.
Yeah, just because you can consent to some stuff doesn't mean you can consent to all stuff. So
Yeah, the vernacular. Yeah.
I can consent as a 3-year-old on what I like to eat, right? Hey, mommy, I want some cereal, some Apple Jacks instead of Frosted Flakes. doesn't mean I can consent to uh, SMEX, because SMEX is going to have some long-term consequences that I'm not aware of, versus short-term consequences of eating food is much easier for me to grasp.
Yeah, that's assent, not consent. Remember that. Because
All right,
assent means
it's not
not
like
having an
we
informed
fleshed
notion.
out. It's not like we fleshed out what the terms mean, so I don't know what you mean.
No, because assent would just, I'm surprised that you don't know this. Assent would just be the informed notion of like the uninformed notion of making a choice. Consent would be the informed notion of making a choice. But the reason why I
Yeah, but
personally believe,
obviously, okay, cool. So what I mean by consent is just um, like somebody has uh, some preferences, or they have some desires, or they have a will, and something being done to them without their will being in agreement on would be a violation of consent. That's all I mean.
so, okay, so if an individual that was three that didn't have enough like emotional maturity to make any decision, they could consent to stuff. But let's go ahead to the prom. So why do you believe an individual's assent, an individual that cannot consent at all, because in the uterus they cannot consent. They barely have the ability to produce a single subconscious thought. So I don't know why you're like
Yeah,
valuing
so they don't
another.
have like they don't have the ability to like like state, hey, I want to consent, but they have a presumed consent, or they don't have like a presumed consent, but rather there's a inherent violation of consent, right? Because you don't need to ask somebody to do something in order to for you to like say, oh, okay, so it's okay for me to do this, or it's not okay for me to do this, right? It's going to be presumed that you don't have consent to do something if it wasn't given to you. And so there is no consent to the fetus. And even if, let's say that the fetus is not able to consent, we maximize consent because there's one person that's going to go in the future and grow to become an adult that has consent. So
Yeah, so you're valuing potent.
even
Yeah.
if we grant your position and this current fetus doesn't have consent, the fetus will grow to a fully adult human who will have consent. So we maximize consent, in my view, as
So,
well.
okay, so you're okay with the revocation of consent, even if the other organism is actively taking resources from the uterus holder.
Like I said, I'm fine. I'm fine with the removal of the fetus, if especially if it becomes if it can be if it can live outside the womb, and in my far future where I allow, right, I allow for um things such as teleportation of the womb of the womb, or teleportation of the fetus to an artificial womb, or an easy and free um process, even if it's biological, not through some far advance, right? In my far
Yeah,
future, we still have that maximization of consent and with the fetus, and we don't have an unalivement.
yeah, so my opponent still believes consent, you like an individual can have consent when they're not informed to it, but also my opponent is like doing a classification of viability over sentience. Because viability, it can be multiple weeks after sentience occurs. So that is why I believe that individuals that,
Viability is going to be technological dependent, right? And so, if obviously depending,
yeah.
like for example, 300 years ago, right, you couldn't have a viable fetus, like even if they were premature. The more advanced technology we have, the more viable the fetus is going to be. So, in the long run, right, if we have like so many years in the future, my view is going to be preferred, right? And look back at your view is like horrible, because we're going to have it's advanced technology in the future to have, as we've seen in the past, with historically, the more technological advanced that we are, the more likely we are to sustain earlier life forms in the womb. So right now we're able to sustain 5 months old. It's not it's very easy to see that we can eventually sustain 4 and 3, etc.
Yeah, technically, like, do you know the youngest individual we've been able to sustain? I believe it was either
Whatever
20. Yeah.
Whatever the age is, it was younger than it historically was because of the
Okay.
technological advancement. So we can imagine in the future we're going to have technological advancement as well to
Yeah.
increase how earlier we can sustain life.
Yeah, all I want to say is like my opponent hasn't gave me the chance to speak because every single time I try and speak, they will interrupt and rebuttal in the middle of my sentence, and then they will do a pleading to emotional logical fallacy because doing they were pleading to like an emotional standpoint because they were classifying the fetus as a baby because I don't see the point of using logical fallacies, but the reason that I believe that is because individuals do not have cannot consent to a bodily process. They can consent to the removal, though.
I guess just to close off the sentence, in both of our worlds, we both have removal. In both of our worlds, we try to maximize consent. But in one of our worlds, and it's my world, we both have the maximal consent and removal of the fetus.
Time.
Actually
That's it, Jim.
incorrect.
That's it, guys. It's time. All right. Judges, gonna put the poll up for everybody.
Yeah, Jim said he wanted to go first in the group chat.
All right, Jim. Go ahead.
Um, man, these debates are like, the few minutes that we have are really hard to be able to cement some pretty good argumentations here. But given the limited time and kind of like the agreed upon terminology, um, I'm gonna have to give the debate to Hatim.
Team, I would love to have a longer, like, formed, like, debate, a formal debate, if you'd like to.
I don't debate abortion typically.
You just did, though. But,
It's
like, we
not
could be
something I like.
informed
If
on it.
it's something forced upon me, first of all, this is judge's time.
All right.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Hatim.
Yeah, I have a lot of statements, but I'm not going to make all of them.
I'd love to
Like
hear them.
the fuck up, Peru. Like I said, there's a little bit hard to judge when the intentions aren't sort of drawn out, but um, I am actually going to give it to Haru in virtue of some of the points were made, like maximizing consent, where consent is discussing the affirmation, the informed affirmation to an act, not just the ability to give the informed affirmation in an act. I thought that was important. The second thing I thought was important was the type of argument is X is wrong if and only if X cannot consent, or maybe X does not consent. And then we went on further to concede on the point, say, well, even if it can consent later, but also the main point between that was then we were sort of committed to saying babies can make informed decisions or deliberate decisions. I thought Haru reductioed that view poorly, but it certainly was enough to trigger my intuition. So that's why I disagreed with Jim in Kaysen.
2 for 1. GG's, Haru.
Hey, Kason and Jim, can I hear your notes if possible?
They'll DM it to you.
No, they won't.
So Haru won that.
No,
Yeah, definitely. Yes, the audience vote and
All
the
right.
audience vote. I didn't see it. The audience vote.
Nah.
yeah,
So
it
we
was
have
60-40.
nah.
Also, AR, are you screenshotting the poll
The
results?
the votes? No,
Yeah.
I'm not screenshotting them.
Don't we should so we could post it for content.
We should, I guess, but there were like 6 votes. Like nobody's like
Do we have another individual in the request?
nobody in the request wants to challenge Haru. We got Haru.
She didn't win.
Yeah,
Hatim. Hatim.
I
Hatim.
need that $50.
You're not.
I need one more.
Oh no,
Hatim,
two
then
more.
let's debate it again, since there's no individual.
I'm not doing that.
I mean, audience, do you want to hear that?
No, I'm a challenger, and there's no one up on the panel, so you can't ignore a challenger. So, Hatim,
I
you're
mean, we can
forfeiting your
debate.
streak then.
We can debate whatever, but I'm
No, I can choose
Somebody
any
come on
top.
up. If nobody wants to see this debate again, somebody come on up and debate Hatim on a certain topic.
yeah,
Again.